Since the beginning of time, guy friends were used in female-centered shows as the best friend to represent masculine perspectives, add comedic relief, and sometimes just be a quirky third wheel. But let's be real. Not all of them were great. In fact, some of them were downright terrible. Instead of being loyal, dependable besties as we thought they were, a lot of these guys were kind of selfish, clingy, or just completely useless when it came to actual situations. They were supposed to support the main character, but more often than not, they would make things worse. So today, we're gonna call them out, from the awkward nice guys to friends who barely acted like friends. These are the best guy friends in teen TV history. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny 2000. First candidate we have from my favorite show, Oliver Oken from Hannah Montana. Oliver Oken was supposed to be the lovable best friend in Hannah Montana, but let's be honest, he was mostly obnoxious and clueless, pretty much wearing the girls down at every turn. Aside from that, he even envied Miley's success. He's like one of the most toxic best friends ever. From the beginning, he had a bad case of nice guy syndrome and constantly made weird, uncomfortable comments, and wasn't really a part of the girls' groups. As the show progressed, he started to become more comfortable with Lily and Miley and a part of their circle. But as time went on, he got comically bad, like the time where he insisted on having an alter ego and inserting himself into Miley's fame life. Or what about the time Miley was auditioning for a movie, but he was so envious, so she had to throw the role just to make him feel better? And even dating Lily, for some reason he just has become less and less likable as the series went on. The relationship was great in Hannah Montana, but it did feel a little forced. Since when did they really like each other? It's like one episode they didn't have each other, then they're like, oh, I like you. Especially the way they treated Oliver before they started dating. Oliver also had this habit of being super selfish whenever Miley or Lily had a problem. Instead of helping, he'd somehow make it about himself, or make it about being a guy, and it just felt out of character for guys in general. But he did have this socially conscious side where when Miley was lying and he caught her in it, he would try to be the moral compass, but not even in a friendly way, and kind of like a rude, like when Miley lied to Lily about going to Washington, D.C. He wasn't being helpful, he was being snotty. Then we got Freddie Benson, kind of similar to Oliver, as the only guy in a girl group, ends up dating one of the main characters. But at least Freddie has a little bit of drive in him. I don't even know what Oliver did. Oh yeah, actually he started to be a singer. But Freddie is like a technical genius. He is the human embodiment of nice guys finish last, spending his entire series fawning over Carly or Sam. It's just like he was only there to be with one of them, which is kind of worse than what Oliver did. At least Oliver wasn't fawning over the girl. He was like a trusted guy friend. He kept persisting when Carly wasn't into him, which was kind of annoying, making his whole personality either whining about Carly not liking him or being mad at Sam for picking on him. We didn't even see a unique side of him when him and Sam started dating. He just was kind of a worse version of himself, which was kind of depressing to see. And the need to constantly remind everybody that he's good at something, like his tech issues, like he has a weird superiority complex, I feel like. Like, yeah, we get it, you built a website, that doesn't make you a genius. It's just funny because in the things that matter in iCarly, he has the least amount of experience. Then we have definitely the worst of them all, Nico and Grady from Sunny with a Chance. Like, this is one guy friend multiplied into two with virtually the same personality each. I'm happy they're not fawning over all the girls in the show, but they definitely are attracted to them, and they've made it apparent, which is kind of weird. They're supposed to be Sunny's best friends, but what did they actually do for her? Most of the time, they were just around to make dumb jokes and cause chaos. They never really took anything seriously, constantly dragging Sunny into their ridiculous schemes that were never even a part of the A-plot. Like, they acted like actual children, despite working on this professional comedy show, which is kind of accurate. Like, why are you guys just pulling pranks on Zora or not being helpful to Sunny? Like, I don't even know their purpose on that show. They treated her kind of weird too. Like, they rarely gave her any real advice. Half the time they just used her when they needed something. Like, they weren't super supportive guy best friends. They didn't offer the male perspective when it mattered. And they should be like hyping you up, having your back, but they were like more of middle school like guy friends, which is kind of sad. Then we have Andre Harris from Victorious. Okay, this one hurts because Andre was actually one of the best characters on Victorious. He was also kind of a terrible friend, and I don't think that's his fault. I think it was just the writing. Not because he was mean or toxic, he just let people like even Tori, the main character, walk all over him. And even though he had incredible talent, like he could sing, write music, play multiple instruments, somehow never got recognition and was always like this bitter guy in the background, almost a little resentful, complaining, just being like this stereotype of a guy best friend character. Meanwhile, Tori took everything from him. Tori just took everything he worked for and ran with it. And instead of keeping it to herself, like Tori stole the spotlight. And he barely helped Kat or Jade either. Like Kat had actual problems and Andre just kind of ignored them, never really showed a lot of empathy toward them unless it had to do with the plot. And if Andre stood up to either, and if Andre played a more active role in anybody's life, maybe he would have appeared like a lot better of a friend. But unfortunately, the writers robbed him of that. We've got Ryan from True Jackson VP. So this one is kind of more of a rare one because we don't talk about the show too much, but I love True Jackson VP and we had to get into this. So True, Lulu, and their friend Ryan, the really dumb one. Like Oliver had some dumb moments, Freddie had some dumb moments, but Ryan felt like he had the least amount of episodes about him compared to all the other shows. He was like so dumb, he was almost like disconnected from reality sometimes. Like True was here working hard and he's just in the office like a toddler running around being taken care of. He was always just chilling, barely contributing, and that's kind of all I have to say about him. Although I will say he's one of the funniest for sure. He actually is funnier than a lot of the other ones, and maybe because they didn't give him any rules to stick with, but his outbursts were the best of every guy friend ever. Then finally we have Chase Matthews. This is definitely the worst. He is the blueprint for an overly obsessed best friend who can't function without his crush. At first, like, it seems like he's sweet and caring and just awkward, but as the show continued, it became his entire personality to be obsessed with Zoey. This guy had like zero sense of self outside of her. Every decision he made revolved around her. He followed her everywhere, completely ignored his own life, and when she finally started liking him, he moved to England. You know, I mean, I don't know what's going on here. Chase was a good friend in the sense that he was always there for Zoey. He was always low-key exhausting to deal with. Like, you could feel his desperation as you watch the show, and it's kind of sad to think that since he had a crush on Zoey this entire time, all of his support and care were out of getting something in return, like acceptance or somebody liking you back. Like, I wish he had done any of the things he did for Zoey out of the goodness of his heart, but instead he just appears like one of the most selfish characters, almost a little manipulative to be so committed to this. Like, how do you make your whole life about somebody that doesn't even like you back yet, and not even be able to tell them? At the end of the day, we need some good guy friends on TV. They need to be supportive, reliable, and, I don't know, actually helpful? As long as they're not just the comedic relief and actually provide perspective on the male side of things, like, that makes an actual good guy friend. We need somebody that gives us perspective, not trouble. And even though it's funnier to have them be the more outlandish character, what about the good of the main characters? All these guys, they kind of missed the mark big time. Whether they were too obsessed with their crush, totally useless in a crisis, or just straight up annoying, they are not winning any best friend awards. Don't get me wrong though, some of these characters really had their moment. I think some of the best were definitely Andre and Oliver, because they came out of the genuineness of their hearts and weren't just comedic relief like the rest. But people like Freddie and Chase, like, they are just in it for their own personal needs. While the rest, like Nico Grady and Jimmy, are just comedic relief. Like, do they even need to be on the show? They do make us laugh though, and give us an occasional good friend moment, and they're really funny, so I guess we have to just deal with it. But what do you think? What is the worst guy friend in teen history? Did I miss anybody you guys think needs to be examined? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more 2000s content. Thank you guys so much. This is Johnny 2000 signing off.